Hey fans, viewers, and listeners, welcome to another exciting episode of Fight Inside Podcast. I'm your host for today, Raine Cruz, also known as Ringside Raine, ring announcer for Up Next Fighting. And with me as always is Timmy B. Before we get things started, please take a moment to follow and subscribe to Fight Inside Podcast to get the latest news and updates from us. Today, we will talk to the woman responsible for female MMA in the world today. We'll figure out how much Saudi money PFL needs to stay afloat, break down the USADA versus UFC feud, and a whole lot more. So, what are we waiting for? Tim, hit it! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fight Inside Podcast.
I'm so excited today, Raine. I cannot tell you. Our guest today is the co-founder and president of Invicta Fighting Championships, the all-female organization that has led the way for women's mixed martial arts ever since they first opened their doors in 2012. Our guests have raved about this woman's impact on their personal and professional lives and how her incredible, gracious, and selfless business practice has helped them succeed and become the best they could ever be in their field. TJ DeSantis, Joe Martinez, Alexa Culp, Olga Rubin, all being some of the latest on our podcast that have said those very things. Invicta FC 54 is coming up on October 27th in Boston at the Citizens House of Blues, Boston. Tickets can be purchased at invictafc.com, or you can watch it on YouTube, Facebook, Access TV, Fight Network TV. Wherever you are, just go find it. She was inducted into the International Sports Hall of Fame in 2022, and it is an absolute honor to have her here today. Raine,
please welcome Shannon Knapp.
That's so awesome. Wanted an introduction. Very cool.
Hello.
Thank you so much. That was awfully kind.
Shannon, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Good.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be on the show and, to meet you both finally. So,
Thank you so much, Shannon. I greatly appreciate this. As we said before we started, like Invicta FC, I've been a huge fan from the very beginning. Your background, for those only listening on audio, is all Invicta with the logo. Is that painted onto your room, or what is that going on?
Yeah, no, I was like, I forgot about the background. No, actually, it's just one of the templates, that you can put in.
Okay. Well, we all need one of those Invicta backgrounds because that logo is killer. Invicta's been doing it forever. Before we get started with the podcast, what we'll do is we're going to play a little game with you, Shannon, to loosen you up and see how you are with some Invicta based knowledge. So Raine is going to, yes.
Yeah.
Here we go. Raine, question number.
I forget more than I remember. So.
Oh, okay. You should be okay. Raine, take it away with question number 1.
All right. Question number 1. Which Street Fighter character did former Invicta champ and UFC star Angel Hill once dressed as for weigh-ins?
I know exactly what she looked like with the hair, the bandana, but I have no idea what that character was, to be honest with you. I know it's from Street Fighter, and it goes, and the sound it makes, but actual name, no clue.
That's okay. That's close enough. It is Dalsim or Dalsim. And there she was.
Yeah, I would have never guessed. Yeah.
There she was, all dressed up. Shannon, you've got an event coming up on October 27th. Are we going to get Halloween dress-ups for the weigh-ins?
I encourage the athletes, because it is so close. If that's what, they want to do, they are certainly welcome. But that's kind of been the practice ever since Invicta started, is if an athlete wants to do that, certainly I'm not someone that's going to tell them that, not to be who they are. So we embrace it. And, I've always enjoyed it.
Yeah, some people come up with some crazy costumes. Roxanne Modafferi has always come up with some great ones. She gets her coaches to dress up with her. It's been awesome, Shannon. Raine, question number 2.
All right, number 2. What submission hold did Fight Inside alumni Big Bag Olga Rubin pull off at Invicta FC 53?
Oh my gosh, was it the Bulldog? I can't even think. You guys would have to ask that, wouldn't you? I told you I forget more stuff than I remember.
That's okay, Shannon. Nobody knew what this move was. I'm
Although,
watching it.
I've heard it a million times now, and for some reason I cannot remember.
Here it is. It is the buggy choke.
Oh, the buggy choke. I said the bulldog, didn't I? Yeah, I knew it was.
Yes. So you're very,
close.
very, yeah, very close.
I know I've heard this, but that actually was the first time, because I worked on the male side of the sports for many years before I started Invicta, and that is the first time I've seen that choke, in a fight competition like that. So, but yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that. I was thinking bulldog. I was trying to think, what was it?
You were very close. Very close. And I swear, I've never even seen that kind of move before. And then when we had Olga Rubin on the podcast, she says that she practices that all the time. Like that's one of her go-tos. And it was crazy. Yeah, amazing. And that, I think that was put up as like submission of the year at a bunch of
I did see that.
At shows, which is crazy, because then that brings so much highlight to Invicta FC as well, like around the world, to say like, wait a second, this submission came from Invicta. Very, very cool. So that was awesome.
Yes. She's a very talented young, individual. So, I'm excited for her that, people are taking notice of that skill set and that she's up for that award.
Yeah.
We're certainly going to support her.
Of course. Raine, question number 3.
All right, number 3. Which professional MMA championship title belt looks the best?
Mine.
That's right. Of course, Shannon. Shannon,
serious. Look at those.
Shannon, I'm showing some of the titles on the screen here, and it's funny. I don't know if I did this or not, Shannon, but people were asking, things go around the internet, and there was a time when people kept saying, which title looks the best? And they did not have the Invicta title. And I was writing on all of them. I said, Invicta FC's got the best looking title, hands down. Yeah. The dual color, the Phoenix, everything looks so beautiful. It's not gaudy. It looks professional.
Yeah, it has crystals. It's just the right, bling, I have to. I'm biased, of course, but even if I wasn't, I think I would tell you the same thing. I mean, after viewing those belts, certainly I think it works for us. I think it's a great representation of what Invicta stands for and what an athlete would want. Yeah. You want something to be proud of, something that,
you can show off. And
I think that it delivers in that regard.
Yeah, so. It's a beautiful belt. And Shannon, once I started doing that, then all of a sudden I saw people asking the question, and there was the Invicta title as one of the options. And I was like, people need to keep that one in there. So I'm happy.
It takes us all to lift it up. It really does. It always has. So thank you for that.
No, it's awesome. Raine, question number 4, last question.
All right, final question. Where has Timmy B, and multiple times on this podcast and online, ranked Invicta when it comes to professional MMA organizations around the world?
Number 1.
Number 1. Shannon, I honestly will say it's either number 1 or number 2.
Oh,
but really, because people always say, okay, UFC is number 1. And then the argument over number 2 comes up, 1FC, Bellator, 1FC, PFL. And that's what people always say. And then I'm always quick to chime in and I say, I think Invicta. Invicta's been around 11 years, putting on incredible shows. Is it 11 years? I think 11 years. 2012, right? Almost, right? Putting on incredible shows, has housed and you've seen the greatest women's mixed martial artists from around the world go there into this organization that has stuck around, doing well. Like, how proud are you that, and I've seen you quote it before, but saying that Invicta, the idea is that, hold on one second, where did I put this here? Is that Invicta is breaking barriers and building legends. And how proud are you that Invicta has been able to do that for 11 years now?
I think really that's what it's all about. For me, it is. I mean, that's the whole reason, I ever started Invicta. That's the reason that I've embraced what we do and continue to push, is because these women are incredibly talented. They deserve someone to be in, the trenches fighting that good fight for them. And, it's just to see them do the things that they've done, accomplish the dreams, have a path, set sights on that path, and to, have those great achievements and to be part of that process, that, my friend, is the only reason I do what I do. So, and I can tell you, if I had the wherewithal, the means, the successes that the UFC has, and the reach and that I tell you, we would be number one, because I think it's very important how you treat your athletes, and
Mhm.
you want people to want to be where they're at, and you want to help them fulfill those dreams, because without them, we can't do it. It just
Well,
can't happen if you don't have those athletes. So I think it's really important to embrace that.
yeah, well, that's the thing, Shannon. Like I was saying before we started the podcast, like I've always been a big fan of Invicta, but I didn't know what a great person you were until we started having female fighters on this podcast. And like Alexa Culp, I think, was one of the first ones that commented on how fabulous you were and about how
Mhm.
you help people. You're not locking people into contracts. You're letting them go and pursue like other opportunities and what's best for them and giving them a place to shine. So, I mean, here's one one quote, not from a fighter, but when they found out that you were coming on the podcast, I said, what do you think about them? And Judge Mike Bell, referee Mike Bell, a former guest of the podcast and a friend now, I can say, he says that Shannon Knapp is just an incredible and amazing promoter. The UFC wouldn't be where they are at in regards to women's MMA without her.
Oh, that's very
Yeah.
kind, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very nice. So, yeah, sometimes, I'll be honest with you, I may not fight in the cage, but every day is still a fight for us to get to where we want to go. I still deal with it. I still deal with, you take meetings with sponsors and they're like, yeah, we support women's sports. And then you talk about combat sports and like, well, we're not sure about that. And I'm always like, okay, so then I'm going to understand this correctly. You support women's sports as long as you can pick the sport they compete in. So you're not
Right.
really part of the solution. You're actually still part of that problem. You're not supporting women in having the ability or the freedom to make that choice and be supported in that. So yeah, it's, and I call it the good fight, because, I feel what we do is when you fight for that acceptance or, people to acknowledge that your sport, and that women have this opportunity, then that, to me, that's the good fight. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's changed, but there are still many barriers that separate, and you just keep going and knocking them down. So to hear good things, positive feedback, sometimes, when you're in that fight, you don't really hear it or you don't see it as much. So thank you for
Yeah.
that. It's
No,
very
Shannon, I
good.
mean, it was coming in from all over the place. I know that recently ONE FC had an event where they had 4 women's fights in the main event, right? Like the
Oh,
top
wow.
4 fights were all
Yeah.
women, and they were promoting it, or whatever was promoting it, saying ONE FC leading the charge for women's MMA. And then I would just comment, Invicta FC says to hold my beer. Because I'm like, what are you,
I love that. That's awesome.
are you guys obviously forgetting? Like, it's silly, but I mean, really, like, people need to remember, like, Invicta FC has been the one leading that charge. But Shannon, you've had fantastic stars come and go out of your organization. Some come back, right? See success, like Angela Hill, right?
Yeah.
She went off to UFC, then after a little while came back, won the title, did a great run with you guys, and then back in the UFC. Like, I love that. I love seeing the people do that and spread your praises. We had fans write in, Shannon Knapp, who's the next big thing? I know I've got my pick on the Invicta roster, who I think is the next to like really hit it big. But who do you like, if you
Oh
don't
my
want to
God.
play 2 favorites, but if you have a couple or one, who do you think like people should really watch for in Invicta?
I think there are a lot of young athletes that are coming up through the ranks. And I think there are athletes that have that experience in Invicta that are really finding their strides. Sometimes I find, you talked about Angela Hill and you talk about, she's in the UFC and then she comes back over here. Sometimes I find that what these athletes need is they just need to feel appreciated, feel that support to help them get back on track, get back in that groove. And I think sometimes I've seen some athletes that maybe were not being successful somewhere else, and then they make it to Invicta, and I'm like, whoa, where'd this come from? But I think it comes down to sometimes like just how we treat them and things like that. And I'm going to tell you, if I mention one, then the thing is I'm going to leave someone out.
Yeah.
And I always feel like it's like a mom saying that's, my favorite kid, and all I talk about is that kid. I don't want to do that to anyone.
Yeah.
You know, I
No
know
worries.
that sounds crazy, but I have faith in them and I believe in what their abilities are, or they wouldn't be here. I'm
Yeah.
very, very much involved with the matchmaking. I always have
Yeah.
been.
No.
It's something I cannot take my fingers off of. So, but yeah, I mean, there are a lot of young athletes that are coming through. I mean, there's
Awesome.
one I want to say, but just as soon as I say that athlete, then
I know. Then they're gonna say, Shannon,
yeah.
what
So
about
why don't you
me?
say a few, and then
Okay.
I'll give you feedback. How about
Sure.
that?
I will say, and I may pronounce the first name, but Hayani Dos Santos. She's your
Yes.
atomweight champion.
Yep.
Boy, oh boy, that girl looks like a killer. She's got a very cool look on
She
top of
does.
it,
Very
but
marketable. Yeah.
very marketable, but she's a killer. I like her. Hayani Dos Santos, of course, our friend Olga Rubin. I like
Yeah.
her. And then another one, she's a girl that I watched out in a female organization out in Calgary, Lily Fahea. She fought
Yeah.
for you a little
Yeah.
while ago. She's a killer too. My
Yeah.
goodness, those are people that I think that I'm watching out for. But I'm biased as well, Shannon. Anybody that comes on this podcast, they're a friend of the podcast, so I
Yeah.
always promote them too. But
Yeah.
but
And
those are
she's
those
not
are
gonna
some
be
killers.
for the for a title shot. So
Yeah,
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 I mean,
very
yeah,
very
there's a
cool.
lot of talented young athletes. I think that there are a lot. You didn't hit the one that I was thinking of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's just so many. That's the thing is there
There's
are, and
yeah,
well-rounded and just I'm seeing a new group of young athletes coming through that you're just like, okay, we'll bring them along, because I always think here at Invicta, it's really important. I think that if you're going to be able to champion, you have to challenge them each time. We never throw them in the deep end. That's not something that I'm interested in. But each time you have to push them a little bit to challenge who they are, let them get a feel for who they are, where they're going and that kind of thing. I think those are the foundations that really build, an elite champion athlete. So, and I see some athletes coming through that I'm like, whoa, they're challenging me to challenge them. I'm just like, you gotta love it, right?
yeah.
But yeah,
Hey,
I think
if that's your only problem, Shannon, then you've got no problems at all, right?
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, and there's new talent that I'm seeing and scouting every day. So which is great for the sport as a whole,
No.
because we have these peaks and valleys with women for some reason, and I certainly can see the valley right now. And sometimes when other promotions and stuff don't really pay attention to the matchmaking and building those divisions out, we see a lot of holes, and then we tend to see the peaks and the valleys at that point. But I think
Yeah.
that when I do see those lulls in the sport, that's a great time for Invicta to come in and and really
Yeah.
start rebuilding and creating more depth in certain areas.
Well, one thing, this was not planned. I've got tons of questions to get to, but
Oh,
one thing that I will say that you did very well was when you brought back the one night tournaments, and
oh,
you've done a couple in the last couple of years. That is fantastic, I feel, because especially when your athletes are perhaps a little bit lesser known, a tournament gives me so much time to kind of get to know the individuals. You get to talk about them so often during that night. That's fantastic. I love that. If I have any one request from you, it's do more one night tournaments. I love that.
yeah. I love the Phoenix series as well. I think bringing it back and just that one night tournament, throwing the twist and the turns in, I think it just makes it more exciting. It modernizes, let's say, the tournament. I'm an impatient person. If I have to wait for so many shows to see who's going to win, the hype goes away, right? But if
Yeah.
I'm all in, I'm all in. And, and to see these women compete like that. And yeah, I think it's very exciting. It's fast paced. I think it's a good show. So I
Yeah.
agree with you.
Yeah, I love it. I love that one night tournament. So let's do that. Now, I want to get to it. Obviously, Invicta, very successful organization. I'm not going to ask you to share your secrets as to how you've done such an incredible job, but we're faced in the mixed martial arts community right now with like Bellator potentially going bankrupt, or who knows, maybe being up for sale. PFL seemingly living on Saudi money. Like, I don't know how much investors they have that just keep pumping money and that they can do this. And then you've got ONE FC that, from my research, is recording record losses year after year. So Shannon, I don't want to badmouth anyone, but what do any of those companies need to do to turn things around and then ultimately gain ground on their competition, which I guess is one of UFC. So like what do those organizations have to do?
Well, to be honest with you, I would say that PFL is sitting probably in the best position because they're on ESPN. I've been saying this for a while, is that the UFC is building, PFL brand. There are a lot of people that watch ESPN that are not familiar with, they think every form of MMA is UFC. So what's happening is you're going to get those people at least that are going to tune in, and so you're going to get that kind of that crossover of people just kind of like, oh, they think it's UFC and watching. It's just the way it works. I think that, unfortunately, and this is all just my opinion, okay?
Yeah, of course.
But my opinion, I think when Bellator I'm sure it wasn't intentionally, but when PFL took that step in and started to elevate, whether they're losing tons of money all the time or not, they're still set in the prime position to do something. Now, could they, will they, or are they? We don't know. But trust me, if I had that kind of money and I had that spot, I would move. I'd be able to move and maneuver, and get a leg up somewhere,
So I apologize, Shannon. Like, being someone that's not in the business, I apologize. Just for our viewers and listeners to understand, when you're tied in with like ESPN, when you've got that TV deal, you're alluding that just like there's a lot of money there. Is that what the idea is?
It doesn't even have to be money. It's location, on a broadcast. It's notoriety. That's the sports channel. So I have to say to you, where does Bellator go? In order to compete and be competitive, you have to make that money. And that money's normally coming from broadcast partnerships. Broadcast partnerships first, then, you'll get into the sponsorships, the ticket revenues, all that other kind of stuff. But that deal of where you air is a huge piece of the puzzle. Huge. So if you're on a station that's airing the same, the number one, you're bound to step into that number two, I would think. As long as you can hold your own to some degree. And, that affiliation of being on, I just don't know, where does Bellator go that they get that same exposure, that same notoriety with a partnership, a broadcast partnership,
Okay.
Because everybody in America, if you're talking to somebody that's watching sports, where are they going?
Right.
ESPN Sports, right? Fox Sports a little, but it's, majority is ESPN. So that's what I feel really hindered or hurt Bellator in this mix.
And then you said that that's the prime spot, and no pun intended, but ONE FC has gone to Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Do you feel that is a smart move? Because spoiler alert, I think it's terrible. I don't like Amazon Prime is such a Amazon Prime is such a weird app. Their streaming has been terrible. Like, when I do watch the ONE FC events, there's often audio lag and stuff like that will kill it for me. But is that something, like, should Bellator be looking at Netflix? Like, is a streaming platform a good idea?
Well, I think it's not a bad idea, of course, because I think we're a society of convenience, and a lot of people are tending to, move away from cable and broadcast and stuff like that. But I think you have to get in with someone that's also going to promote you. If you're not seeing that promotional support, you're just something on a broad, then somebody's going to spend the investment to promote it. So, Netflix right now currently doesn't have live sports, but could that be a win? Yes. Is it ESPN or ESPN Plus for sports fans? Not really, but it's accessible and people could still tune in. So I really feel, in my world, if I, had the ESPN deal and I'm PFL, okay, I could make that work, definitely make that work to my benefit to elevate, my promotion. They have everything they need. They got the money, they got, the broadcast partnership. If they fail, it's not going to be because of those reasons. But it did leave Bellator in a position that it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to find, the revenue, that partnership and the things that they're going to need to move out around those guys again.
But when you say they've got the money, that's what we're saying is like that Saudi money that apparently they're saying, right? These Saudi investors. Okay, so it's the
they
same
always
as
seem to come up with it. So
yeah, but
they're always
but
raising more, so they've got something going on.
I mean, that's the same as Shatri, who owns ONE FC. He was on Ariel's show and he's talking about like, hey, my investors have got deep pockets. My investors have got deep pockets. But my question to you, Shannon, is, in your experience, can these organizations last long with just investor money?
Well, I think you have to turn something around. Even investors with lots of money don't like to keep losing money. I mean, you have to be building something, a projected something that makes them think that there's light at the end of the tunnel. There's, a return on the investment, something. I mean, you can't just keep going. There has to come a point. But they have everything that it takes to do something. For me, that's what it's always about is, having, you've got a perfect broadcast partner. Maybe they're not even getting paid. Let's say they even did a time buy. With that placement, you ought to be able to make that work. Now you've got all this money that's coming in. If it doesn't, and they can't solidify that spot to number 2 and really start to generate those revenues, then I would have to look at something else wrong in the picture.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. I appreciate you being so open and honest too. And I don't know if you can answer this, but is there room for all these organizations in the market, or is it too crowded? Like the thing is like when you have organizations around the world that are like smaller organizations like Cage Warriors, Fight League Atlantic out in Atlantic, Canada, Shannon, I just commentated a gig for them.
Nice.
When you have organizations that aren't trying to be number one, that I feel like that's okay because they've got their little niche pockets. But when you've got PFL, Bellator, ONE FC all trying to be UFC, is that just too crowded? Is that going to be a problem?
It can get that way. Yes, it can get that way. Certainly. I think that the shuffling is going on right now as we speak. You've got Bellator that's sitting out there that is for sale and nobody knows what's really happening. Is it going to get sold? Is it, going to disband and the athletes will move on to other, nobody really knows the answer to that. ONE FC, they've done one show in America. They're talking about doing more, could they? I don't know. But it's always pretty much the 1 and 2. 1 and 2 spot is really what's the standout. The rest kind of fall, down to the wayside just a little, and continually strive to get their head above water to get up there to the first 2. But the real duking it out right now is those 3, coming in for that PFL, which I feel like has kind of moved into that spot and solidified number 2. And then you got, so now you got Bellator and ONE FC trying to figure out what are we going to do here. And that's when it gets rough. When you're number 2, you're good. But when you get down below number 2, that's when it becomes a little more troublesome.
It's interesting because like, I guess it depends. Like, and I mean, who better to know the world of mixed martial arts than you, Shannon? But like, it's weird when I talk to different people or different pockets or different groups of friends, PFL is like number 4 in a lot of people's minds. Like for like the people that I talk to, they're like, well, it's either Bellator or ONE FC. And they're 2 and 3, and then PFL is 4. And then you get some hardcore people saying PFL is up there, but it's a tight race, Shannon. It's a tight race.
Really is. The only thing in my world that separates them is broadcast location.
Yeah, see, so you're big on that. That's interesting.
Well, I think it's really important. I mean, that's if you're going to pull people in to watch, you're going to pull them from sports, right? I mean, majority of the people they don't just watch MMA. They watch sports. So to me, that is, I think it's just a big deal. I've got to be honest with you. I haven't watched any of those shows for a really long time.
No, that's okay.
I told you, I don't lie, but I did watch, I did tune in and see Chris Cyborg for a little bit.
Of course, yeah. Hey,
But other than that, I couldn't tell you honestly. I don't know. I maybe have watched one PFL.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So just being honest, for me, it comes down to that placement and just saying, and I'm just telling you, if Invicta was on that channel and we had the resources, we're moving, we're not sitting idle. And I mean, we're coming in to fight for that spot, so if I've got all those resources, I would be number 2. Like I'd be, you'd have to pry it out of my hands. So that's all I can tell you is that, where they sit and what they've got, they should be pounding on their chest. We're number 2 and look out, here we come.
Yeah. I mean, if they pound on their chest, they might damage their referee cam that they glue onto their ref. So they gotta be careful. Shannon, for all the ESPN executives watching this podcast, as they should every week, go get Invicta on the schedule. Like, go get Invicta. That would at least I mean, Shannon, to me, it's a no-brainer. If I'm an ESPN executive and I want to fill more time with MMA fights, why would I put an organization that seems so similar but is not UFC?
Yeah.
I should go get Invicta, who has a unique, long-standing product with brand appeal and brand recognition. And boom, Shannon, there we go. It's Invicta all the way for me.
I'm not going to argue with you. I think it would be a really smart move as well. And especially if you support women's sports and things like that, I think it's a no-brainer. Of course, I believe that in my realm of the world, I believe that. But yeah, who knows? I mean, anything can change at any point in time. But yeah, just to answer and go back to that is just that PFL seems to be the organization sitting in the right spot to really, solidify their placement, period. Are they going to give the UFC a run for their money in that term? I doubt it. You're going to have to change a few things, but can they be number 2 and still be profitable and, wreak some havoc in the sport? Of course, they've got all the resources. Now, if they can put them together, it could be a different story, but they've got what it takes to do it.
Yeah. Until you book an Ngannou fight and you pay him his promised $8 million, I don't know where they can possibly afford to pay that guy that if you're not running on a pay-per-view structure. I mean, it would have to be a pay-per-view event, but I mean, hey, $8 million for the one guy.
Well, they do have really good support right now, financial. And you guys got to remember, there's a little bit of butting heads between Saudi Group and Ari, with Endeavor. So, there was a little bit of, tension, or, at least that's what I read. I don't really know that. But you got to think those guys want to cause a little trouble then, right?
Yeah, stir it up.
Behind. Yeah, you would think so.
Yeah. Well, Shannon, yeah. And Shannon, I really do hope that we can have you back on the podcast one day, because I know we're going a little bit long. I'm going to turn it to Raine to ask you a final question. And then I have a final question as well. I apologize for going a little bit long. Are you okay?
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. Okay. Yeah, no. All good.
Raine, question from you before I go to my last one.
I am very curious. So in a world of a male-dominated sport, not just for athletes, but for people who work, within the combat sports world, have you gotten some reactions from people who are surprised when you tell them that, you promote fights? Because for me, sometimes when I tell people, I'm a cage announcer, and I get a look wherein like, what? Because in their minds, it's usually guys who do it, right? Have you gotten some reactions like that as a promoter?
Oh, yeah. They have that game show that's called Guess What You Do for a Living. People are always like, you've got to go on that. No one would ever guess what you do. But yeah, no, I get that a lot. Like, a lot of people just look at me. I don't know what they think a fight promoter looks like or whatever, but yeah, I do get that a lot. I went from teaching Sunday school and doing this and that to now I tell people to fight. So go figure.
No, it's incredible. Raine, do you mind if I go to my last question?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah? Okay. So Shannon, this is a question we ask everybody on the podcast. We've been doing it for a while now, maybe the last 6 months or so. We ask everybody this question, Shannon. It's a question that my mom used to ask me almost every day growing up as a child. So I'm going to ask it to you. Huh. Shannon Knapp, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you?
We're supposed to tell the truth? Yeah, I mean, I'm happy 1 to 10, right? I give myself
It's however you want to take it. Some people don't give us a number. Some people give us a philosophical answer. It's whatever you'd like to, however you'd like to answer
Maybe
it.
whatever you feel right
I'm gonna give you
now.
both then, okay? So
Okay.
probably, if I were to be genuinely honest, I'm a 7 and 8. Could things always be better? Of course, but it all has to do with my glasses. I'm extremely blessed, extremely blessed. I do what I love and I love what I do. You know, um, but could it be easier? Sure. But would that be fun? I don't know. Probably not. So I'm just gonna say my glass is always half full, and I'm grateful and thankful. Definitely
That's
grateful
awesome.
and thankful. So
That's awesome. I'm so happy to hear it, Shannon. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure to have you on, Shannon. I cannot sing your praises enough. People, like, I know you seem a little bit shocked that people are saying such great things about you, but I am
I mean,
not.
it's just very kind. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's just very kind.
No,
You
I'm
know,
not lying. I'm not lying at all. People come out of the woodwork to tell me how great. When we had TJ DeSantis on, he was just like singing your praises as well, saying what a
Aw.
great partnership you guys had as well. Joe
He's working with
Martinez.
me for October 27th, by the way.
Wait, what do
Oh,
you mean?
Yeah, I haven't told anybody, I guess. So breaking news there. TJ will be working the October 27th show. So
TJ DeSantis is back
yes.
commentating the October
Yeah,
27th
it'll be
show.
TJ, Julie, and Megan Anderson.
Oh my goodness, Shannon,
wow.
that is a power group. I love
It
them.
is. It's
Will Joe Martinez be there?
yes, and Joe. Yeah.
Joe Martinez is there.
Not to leave Joe out, but yeah, and Joe.
No, no,
Yeah.
no, no, no. Because I'll tell you, Shannon, that group, like Joe Martinez is the voice of Invicta. Like he is the perfect voice. Raine and I both know him coincidentally. Joe is a fantastic dude, and I'm so happy for him to be on your shows. But
Yeah, me too.
TJ and Julie are such a great combo as well. I love Megan
Yeah.
Anderson. She's fantastic. I've been trying to get Megan Anderson on this podcast forever. She's such a nerd. She's got all cool nerdy stuff on her Instagram and everything. I feel like I could have a good conversation with her. Please let her know to reach out to me. Megan
I will
Anderson.
for sure. I
Yeah,
will.
Megan seems like such a cool person. I'd love to have her on.
She is.
But
Yeah.
I'm very happy to hear that TJ will be back at the show
Yeah.
because I do love him on the mic for Invicta. He's been the classic Invicta voice for so long, so that's great.
Yeah.
Shannon, that event that we're talking about is your debut in Boston. Oh, I had one fan question. I should just ask it. Will
Okay.
there be open scoring in Boston? I think no
No.
people didn't know. No, there will
Yeah.
not.
No. Unfortunately, we would have it wherever we can, and
Yeah.
that's really up to the commissions. If they allow
Okay.
or not in those states.
Hmm.
So, but for us, we love
Okay.
it. So it's
Yeah.
just comes down to where we're at and if we
It's
can implement it and things like
okay.
that. So
Yeah, no, I think this was a fan that obviously knew about Invicta. You guys have open
yeah.
scoring normally, but it depends on the commission. So, okay, good answer there. And Shannon, before we let you go, is there anything that you'd like to say to the fans, viewers, and listeners of the podcast?
No, just thank you. It's so important. Like I said, it takes us all to continue down this road and continue to help these athletes and build a promotion that, caters to the athletes. So I'm just grateful and thankful to the fans and media for the support that they give us. And, Boston, here we come. So, we're excited to be going to the East Coast. Yeah, it's just an exciting time, and hopefully we're working on some things that I hope we'll be able to talk about soon that could really make a difference too.
That's incredible, Shannon. I'm so
Awesome.
happy for you guys. If you're listening only on audio, Shannon Knapp is at Shan Knapp on Instagram. Go follow her there. And of course, follow Invicta FC on Instagram everywhere. Go follow them everywhere. Shannon, it's an absolute honor and pleasure to have you. I know I've said that before, but it really, really is. I can't believe I got to speak to you today. Thank you so much, Shannon. I hope to see you again one day, and all the best at your next event.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you,
Take care.
Shannon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. That is Shannon Knapp.
Oh
I
my
can't believe it.
God. It's
I
so
didn't
good to talk to her. And
she's
I feel like I
British.
learned so much about the business from her.
The TV deal is that big?
Yeah,
Like
I mean, if you think about it, it's like she's definitely right. It's like like people tune into ESPN for sports, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes it's just kind of like ingrained in people's, minds. Oh, sports, ESPN. So they just tune in there. Whatever ESPN is showing, they're gonna watch it. I didn't realize
I
that
know, but
until
what does
she brought it
watching
up.
so what does watching mean though? I guess what watching means is then when you get the numbers of the viewers, then you can go to your sponsors and say, "Hey, look, we've got 1 million people watching, so hey Budweiser, pay me money," or
Yeah.
hey,
And
whatever.
that's the thing. It's like watching could mean a lot of things. There's people who like sit down and watch, whatever channel they want to watch, right? Yesterday, when I went to a concert, I was walking around the hotel area and they just had a bunch of screens on because I passed by the casino and it's showing a bunch of different sports. So
Right.
is that considered watching?
Yeah,
Because
I
it's
don't
just
know.
up there.
I don't
But
know.
the fact that it's up there, right? It's on TV screens, for anyone to see can pull someone's attention and be like, "Oh, what is that? Oh, okay." Yeah, it kind of, I don't know.
I'm so confused about the business, in all
Uh-huh.
honesty. I'm so confused over like what actually generates money. Like I just don't understand. So I guess if the ESPN deal is huge because it's going to get you the viewers, it's going to get you on the spots, it's going to get you noticed. It has to mean the money, but she was saying there's an option where you could just buy time. Like, wouldn't that be
Mm,
crazy if we find out that PFL has bought the time
time,
on
the
ESPN?
airtime,
Like,
yeah.
that would be crazy if they
Yeah.
bought the time with their Saudi money,
Yeah.
right? But then you're just going to say, okay, but then investors or not investors, but I guess maybe investors come because they see you more, and then I guess sponsors will pay. But I don't know. It's still confusing to me. It's still very confusing to me because Invicta has seemed to run for 11 years. I pray that they continue to be successful and continue forever indefinitely because I love that organization. But like I guess now they're on Access TV and Fight Network. So there you go. I don't know. To me, being on Fight Network might be better than ESPN because fight fans are going to Fight Network.
Fine. Okay.
If
Okay.
it's on ESPN, yeah, I don't know. I
She
don't
did
know.
bring up a great point though, because to me it's like I didn't know about PFL until I saw it on ESPN. Because to me it's like I just have it up,
Yeah,
and
but
it's
then
like, and
even
then
after, okay, but then even after you see it, what does that mean?
true, but for someone who's like, probably has seen it for the first time and be like, "Oh, there's other MMA show aside from UFC. Oh, let me check this out." You know,
Yeah.
um,
When we have her back on again, we'll ask for like a more economical breakdown and maybe a lesson to teach us how to run this business. I just don't know. Like, I don't know, but
I feel like the hopes of buying. Let's just say PFL bought the airtime, right? Let's just say that's what they
yeah, yeah,
did.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think the hope is they buy the airtime, they show PFL, they get the sponsorships, like because like they,
yeah,
buying the airtime means you're taking a chance for eyeballs to see your programming.
yeah.
And once a lot of people see it, you know, and they feel like, oh my God, we're really getting the numbers that we want, then there goes the possibility of sponsorships, which means money.
That's huge. The sponsors has to be huge money, right?
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
commercials and blah blah blah, right? That has to be big.
Yeah, because
Uh,
it's like that's I feel like is how these shows generate money, like getting all the sponsorships.
yeah, yeah,
Obviously investors play a big role, but I feel like a sponsorship is the one that really helps them out.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, okay, she's gone now. Hopefully, she doesn't watch this far into the podcast. Okay. But she did only say she only watched one time PFL.
Yeah.
It's not a great product. I really feel like the other organizations put on a better show, like
Maybe she just
overall.
probably want to check it out,
No, no, no. I'm saying like she's saying all that now, but if you really sit there and
Oh.
watch it, I don't know. To me, as a fight fan, like I feel like if my wife, we've talked before about how my wife will walk in and see me watching, certain things and go turn that off. Like even as a fair weather fan, my wife can identify when the production value is good or bad, right? And I think who cares? I'm going to say when I was watching PFL one time and she walked by, she's like, "Get that off here." Like it just doesn't look right. But Bellator, she never says anything. Invicta, she never says anything either. But I think she may love Invicta because Joe Martinez is on there and she loves Joe as well. So she likes hearing Joe's voice and stuff like that. So I got to get Joe back on the podcast.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I should get Joe back on. I didn't want to say to her that if a commentator falls sick or a ring announcer falls sick, you and I are just a quick phone call away.
Shameless plug right there.
I didn't want to do it and put her.
Still listening, by the way.
Yeah. If you are listening, Shannon, if you're here watching, listening because of Shannon Knapp, thank you so much. That's honestly very cool that she came, and thank you for watching. We are in episode 141, I think, so we are far into this thing. Please follow and subscribe to us on all our channels. Leave some comments, leave some likes, leave some reviews. We really appreciate it. Raine, we had some very lovely people reach out in the last week. I've had quite a few people reaching out that did not know who we were at all, somehow stumble upon us and have been leaving very nice comments and sending me nice messages. So I thought that was very nice. So thank you to those people. Friends of the podcast update. Raine, I realize I miss people all the time now. We've interviewed far too many people.
Friends of the podcast now.
It's so many friends of the podcast. It's very hard to keep track. So it's very hard. But I do want to say, Super Sadiq Yusuf fought the main event last week at UFC. I did not mention that he was going to be doing that. I wasn't even keeping track. He's a friend of the podcast. He lost a decision to Barboza, but he performed incredibly well. Dude is a monster. And to fight Barboza, you have to be insane. Like, to take those spinning kicks. Did you watch the main event? Did you see it? Sadiq
I didn't get
against...
to see it. I watched the first part of it. I didn't get to finish it.
Jeez Louise. Like, the whole time you're like cringing, thinking like Edson's going to throw another spinning kick to the dome. And of course he does it and wobbles Sadiq. Like, it's just gross. Like, he throws these spinning kicks with his heel and they always connect. Like, and it's gross. But anyway, Sadiq survived, almost finished him in the first. But Super Sadiq, we love you, man. And we're excited to see you back again. So Sadiq, let's do this. Raine, next week on the podcast, I do not know who's coming on. I have many possibilities. But I have not locked anything down yet. I have 2 UFC fighters, but they're both traveling. Actually, both of them back to England, which is weird. But both of them are in England, and it's just kind of hard to kind of lock everything down. I've got another young fighter in Canada who's fighting this weekend, and then she's fighting later. So I'm trying to figure everything out. But next weekend, we'll have somebody. So come on over. We'll get somebody on the podcast. Raine, actually, you gave me a guy that you said.
Gianni Vasquez. So hopefully at some point we can bring him in to our show. I met him at the last UNF show that I worked at.
Okay.
And really great guy. And he won the championship that night. And I remember, and actually we have a picture, but then you can't see him in the picture because the focus was on me.
As it should be. It should be.
I didn't pay the photographer. It just so happened the shot was focused on me. I'm sorry, Gianni. But anyway, I think it was the moment when I was announcing him. And this is the first time that someone like walked up to me and I think he really felt the energy and the vibe of me announcing him. So he walked up to me. So I walked up to him and, he had his like hand up. And I wasn't sure if he wanted to do like a fist pump, right? And I just held my hand up. And I think we were both like, just like not sure. So it was kind of like right there, but we didn't really meet.
Okay.
But I knew
that's cool.
We locked eyes and I was just like announcing him and he's just like nodding at me and I was like nodding at him and I was like, yeah, dude, I got you, man. I got you.
Nice.
I mean, that's how I am with every fighter,
Yeah.
I want him to feel like, you know what? I respect you for being here, for all the training that you've done. And now you're here. I'm going to give you your flowers. And I think he really appreciated that. So
Raine, I am so happy to hear that. I got to see that. And when that comes out on video, make sure you send that to me because I want to see. Because I remember one of the first times when we were talking, I said to you, has anyone ever come up and fist bump you at the time? So that dude was the first?
I mean, that was really close. I think there was like a thought we wanted to do it. And I think we were both not sure, are we like doing this? And to me, I didn't want to like, do the fist bump, and then like he kind of moves his like fist, and it's gonna
Oh,
be like,
so
ah.
embarrassing.
So I'm just like waiting. If you want to do it, hey, I'm right here.
Yeah. Then it's now you're both like not sure. You both don't want to get left hanging.
We're
Yeah.
both being polite, I think.
All right. That's funny. Well, yeah, sure. We've got to get this dude on. What amateur or pro?
A pro.
Oh, pro champion. Oh, well,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, then we'll make room for Mr. Pro Champion, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So, anyways, we'll figure stuff out, but we've got lots of people kind of lined up for the show. It's just I got to figure out who's next week, but I'll figure that out. We have one main topic that I wanted to talk about today, and it's more like, again, kind of like educational to
Yeah.
kind of go through this thing and figure this out. But it is the USADA drama, right? So bye USADA. And so last week, I suddenly start seeing on my Instagram all these things about Dana White calling USADA dirty scumbags. And
Mhm.
like there's all these, and you know how Instagram is, everybody just copies the same crap. So I just keep seeing the same quote posted by everybody with a different picture of Dana White. And I was like, what the hell's going on? So I've done a little bit of research. I know I sent you some articles to kind of take a look and see what you thought. But we're going to kind of go through this and then see where both our heads are at. I've got lots of pictures and stuff to kind of go along and see how this goes. But so you see the things with Dana White calling USADA scumbags. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? So I go and I find the USADA press release that they release. And so I'm going to put up a few parts here and there. And if you're not watching on video, I will read these out. But so the press release and parts of it, the press release goes on to say, from USADA, we can confirm that Conor McGregor has re-entered the USADA testing pool as of Sunday, October 8th. We've been clear and firm with UFC that there should be no exception given by the UFC for McGregor to fight until he has returned 2 negative tests and been in the pool for 6 months, which we know is the thing, right? The rules also allow USADA to keep someone in the testing pool longer before competing based on their declarations upon entry into the pool, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, I don't really see anything wrong with that statement per se. And then it kind of goes on. Unfortunately, we do not know whether the UFC will ultimately honor the 6-month or longer requirement because as of January 1st, 2024, USADA is no longer involved in the UFC anti-doping program. Despite a positive and productive meeting about a contract renewal in May, the UFC did an about face and informed USADA on Monday, October 9th, that it was going in a different direction. Anything bad yet?
Not so far. Okay.
No? Yeah, like I don't really see anything too bad here. Like I don't get what I'm supposed to take as being a dirty scumbag. Aside from maybe saying that your partnership ends in January. But okay, then we keep going and it says the relationship between USADA and UFC became untenable given the statements made by UFC leaders and others questioning USADA's principled stance that McGregor not be allowed to fight without being in the testing pool for at least 6 months. One UFC commentator, I'm assuming Joe Rogan, but I don't know, echoed this, recently declaring that USADA should not oversee the program since we held firm to the 6-month rule involving McGregor, and since we do not allow fighters without an approved medical basis to use performance-enhancing drugs like blah, 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 to heal and get ready for the octagon, blah, blah, blah. So in that part of the statement, are you seeing any reason that they should be getting mad now?
Like, which they are talking about, UFC or
like why UFC is mad?
I don't know if this is kind of like related to UFC's recent partnership, and like now there's like different decision makers in a company, right? So I don't know if all of a sudden there's like somebody else or other people making decisions, and now they think that UFC needs to go to a different direction in terms of like the testings being done.
Okay.
So maybe that's why they just have to end the partnership, just like that. Because they've been like they've been like working together for what, like for 8 years, I think, or
It's been a long time. Yeah.
a long time, right? Yeah.
I mean, this part of the statement obviously I think this is where they kind of get mad because it kind of seems like USADA is implying that UFC wanted some exceptions to be made for Conor.
Yeah. And then so maybe that kind of goes back to someone else now is like making the call for UFC.
Right. So, and when you're saying this, you mean like their ownership with
Yeah.
Endeavor and blah, 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 right? That
Yeah.
someone's saying like, yo, you better get our cash cow back out fighting because we need some money.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
So that kind of seems like maybe that's where they're taking it, because then I read some other stuff, and just for notion's sake, or for, I don't know, credit's sake, whatever, the generally where I'm getting all this information is, one is from ESPN.com. There's a statement there. There's an article there on ESPN.com. It's titled "USADA stands by initial statement as UFC vows legal action," in case you're looking for it. And then another article I'm going to be quoting and looking at is from Bloody Elbow, which is that organization that screwed over Jared Gordon that we talked about the other day. I was on Bloody Elbow, and there's an article called "USADA on UFC split, blah, blah, blah." But so if you want to look, you can look there. But this is where I'm getting these statements. And then, of course, the official USADA statement that I found online. So I think that's generally where it looks like it's bad, because obviously it looks like they're kind of insinuating that UFC wanted some leniency or exceptions to be placed on
Yeah.
Conor to come back and fight, right? Now, mind you, we interviewed Max Payne Griffin on this podcast, who was out with surgery and whatever, and was still in USADA and all that. The fact that Conor removes himself from the testing pool while he's injured and recovering is weird. Like, why? Like then what was he taking that was so crazy during his recovery period that he couldn't be with USADA?
Mm-hmm.
There is a question that people have to ask, right? You got to be like, well, why would he remove himself? If, like, who cares? They should come in. Like, yeah, we know your leg's busted and broken. So yeah, I know you're on a bunch of medications. Yeah, I know then you can't compete, but you're not going to compete anyways. But to remove yourself, Max Payne Griffin did not remove himself when he had his broken arm, right? Or whatever it was that was broken, right? And I don't think other fighters always do. We can ask other fighters as they come on. One funny thing is, last week we talked about, when we were talking about BJJ, I told you about Gordon Ryan, and I said he looks like Big Papa Pump. He's okay. I didn't say this at the time with Justice on the podcast because I didn't know if it was rude or like allegedly blah, blah, blah. And I didn't want to get anyone in trouble. But Gordon Ryan, when he hears this news about USADA and UFC being done, you can find parts now where he's going, yeah, we should all take steroids, man. And he's like, in BJJ, there's no performance enhancing drug testing. And so you can kind of take whatever you want. Why not do it? So essentially the guy's saying he's on it. Here's a picture of him to see this natural body in action.
So natural.
His veins have veins. Like, that's how, like, juiced and whatever this guy is. I mean, this guy's crazy, Raine. But so when we were talking last week with Justice, I was like, well, a guy like that. And I wasn't kind of saying anything, but now I read these articles where he's essentially admitting, like, yeah, I'm taking a bunch of crap because BJJ doesn't test you for this. I'm like, oh, okay. Anyways, that's not the case, though, that UFC is just going gangbuster. Like, everybody get on your drugs. Let's go. Because then there's this on X. Aaron Bronstetter. I think he's I don't know. I follow this guy. I think he's like a ESPN guy or a TSN guy. He's some sort of like guy with a sports something. So he tweets out Nowitzki, which is the UFC drug guy. Nowitzki says that Drug Free Sports International will be tasked with sample collection, as they have been for the NBA, NFL, NHL, WNBA, NASCAR, and many other pro sports. And then he goes on to say, Nowitzki says that Drug Free Sports International, henceforth we'll call it DFSI, okay, is a perfect fit with the UFC because of how experienced they are with sample collection. I mean, was collecting samples the problem here? Like we talk to fighters all the time. They're like, yo, these people show up at my door all the time. They take my pee and they go.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's not hard.
So maybe now it comes down to what kind of samples, does UFC want to get tested?
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, what tests do they want to be done?
Who
Right, for
you mean
UFC.
who they're gonna test, or like what are they gonna test
Not
for?
just who and what are they gonna test it for,
We test it
right?
for all the drugs. What do you, I don't know.
Well, in our minds, yeah. But like,
So so okay, and to be fair, Rain, this podcast is gonna go a little bit long because we're already at the hour now, but
yeah.
we're not done. You're okay for a
Yeah,
little bit?
I'm fine.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So
Right? Because like if you think about it, like maybe based on that tweet, right? And you also pointed it out that it's just all about collecting samples and doing
yeah,
drug tests and all that. So what's like the difference between USADA now and then the DFSI?
right.
If they're both doing the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've been with USADA for many years, all of a sudden you're going to go with
And
this company that's also doing the same thing.
yeah. So with no real understanding of what's really greatly different now, shoot, if I could find it, there was something I saw some tweet where they talked about the things that they can do. I'll never find it now. But so USADA puts out the statement saying blah blah blah. Oh, you could look it up quickly if you're on a computer. You can look up what does DFSI do differently, or what will they do for UFC. I saw like it was a black picture and it highlighted some things. Anyways, so USADA puts out that statement which says, "Hey, we're no longer going to be with them. Good luck with Connor. We hope that he gets tested, but we have no idea." Dana White comes out, "You sons of bitches," and he like blasts them and calls them dirty scumbag moves and whatever. And then USADA, sorry, then USADA, and that it's the president of USADA that is releasing this stuff, right? His name is Travis Tygart.
Mhm.
We tried to reach out to him for comment. We tried to reach out to him before this blew up even worse.
Mhm.
Now this dude guarantee will never talk to us because he's probably in hiding for his life. But but Travis Tygart, he's the USADA CEO. He then speaks to ESPN after the Dana White explosion, and they talk about that they're going to sue him for defamation. They're going to blah blah blah. Right? They're going after him legally and all that crap. Then he goes on ESPN, and this is between a few things here, but I'm going to put up. Here's what kind of the USADA response kind of is. Travis Tygart says, "Our insistence and public insistence that the 6-month rule apply to all athletes, including Connor, be in place. That clearly upset them. And that's what led to the
Mhm.
about face that they did from May." So now he's putting this out there. And then it
Mhm.
says DFSI, for example, Tygart says, stating the kind of company that's, quote, willing to run any kind of program, whether it has credibility or not, end quote.
Mhm.
And then they'll probably try to subcontract out with a laboratory, and then UFC will handle all the results, will be my guess. So they'll bring it in-house and control every aspect to it. Who's tested, what's it tested for, at what times they're tested, send out collectors to go test it. I don't know, but that's my prediction. So there's Travis Tygart kind of saying exactly what you're kind of just saying there, which is now it looks like UFC kind of wants to have more control over this,
Yeah.
which is not the whole point of having an independent third-party drug testing company.
Yeah. And again, like I don't know if this is like just the UFC making the decision, right? And it could
Or
be
the
because
other, or the owner.
yeah, it could be because like now they're part of like a, you know, bigger company and there's different decision makers now calling the shots. So, um, maybe the decision makers now want like a different kind of like testing, um, different kind of like testing program, and it's not something that USADA offers or, um, you know, would be willing to do.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why they had to end their partnership. And now it kind of just ended like ugly, I guess.
Yeah, which is really weird because you think if you're USADA, like you have a job to do with other companies.
Hmm.
So the way that UFC responds and starts blasting you can't be good for your public image. And if you're
Yeah.
gonna like be, because you're gonna be going to lobby with like, FIFA or something and go, "Hey, we'd like to do your drug testing for soccer," and they'd be like, "Aren't you the guys that Dana White just said are a bunch of scumbags?" Like it
Yeah.
can't be good for them that happened. or it makes UFC look really bad.
I think for Dana White to say that, I think he just doesn't want to come off, or at least he doesn't want UFC to come off as they're playing favorites on like athletes and the way they test athletes. I think that's why he kind of like, you know, he was on like the defense mode, right?
Yeah.
Because I think this could have been just done easily. We're in
Uh,
we end our partnership. That's it. UFC is now going to go with a different testing program through DFSI. USADA will part ways with UFC, and then they'll be doing drug tests elsewhere.
yeah. I mean, that's seemingly what it would be, but the way it all went down, I guess, like with UFC taking seemingly a lot of offense to the way it came out and the
Hmm.
implication that they were trying to get Connor some like
Like a pass.
perks, a pass or perks or
Yeah.
whatever. But it does seem weird that that they're doing this. And so, yeah, like Dana White was quoted as saying, "Let me start with this. It wasn't an announcement. It was a dirty move by them. That was no announcement. That was straight up scumbagism."
Mm.
Then they hire this guy George Piro to head the new drug testing program, who's like an ex FBI guy. But like, it just seems weird, like the way that everything goes down.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So it's interesting, but it's like it's good for people to know that like how everything played out. That's why I just wanted to talk about it on the podcast to go like, well, that's kind of what happened, because you only see the stupid one quote that everybody
Hmm.
shares, and then you see the one Dana White quote. And I don't know that people like ever look into it or know to look into it or whatever, but just to educate yourself on this whole process. But what is funny is Travis Tygart's assumption that now with this new program, the UFC can kind of control a little bit more who's
Yeah.
getting tested or whatever, that it may not be as independent. Like that's what he's kind of saying. So I don't know.
And
What
and 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 I think I don't know if that's like kind of like his assumption too. Because like
yeah.
UFC also have like a strict policy where, and you know what? I don't care if, you're just starting out as a UFC fighter or you've paid your dues and making like millions of dollars as a fighter, you're gonna get tested, right? That could be like a strict policy of the UFC too.
Yeah.
Who knows? You know?
Well, that's what it was, because it's funny. Like it's kind of like a boyfriend girlfriend thing, right? Everything starts out all hunky dory, like at the beginning, UFC and USADA are in love, and they're fresh love, new love, and they're like, you guys are wonderful. No, no, you're wonderful. Oh, we're gonna make
Yeah,
the sport
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, USADA is the greatest. They're the gold standard. Like I'm sure you could pull clips of like where they were just singing USADA's praises,
Yeah.
and to be honest, we've never really seen like problems with USADA. Like I don't know, people were saying like, oh, there's a lot of false negatives and stuff like that. And then I saw one athlete comment said, USADA catches more fake tests than they do actual cheaters.
Mm.
But it's like, but that's the nature of the game, right? Like, wouldn't you rather them? I don't know. I mean, you'd rather them catch too many than too few, maybe. But not to the detriment of someone and stuff like that, as long as it all gets cleared up. But I don't know. We've never heard that collection was a problem. We've never heard that that they weren't doing their job and not catching people that need to be caught. So it seems like they were kind of doing their job, but now they're going to this new DFSI, and then I guess we'll see what like where that leads to. I mean, I guess I could investigate into DFSI and see who they are and what they do. But
Yeah.
and I wish I had saved that other thing that said what they were going to do different. But I remember when I was reading it, I was like, it's all the same shit that USADA does, right? Like, I mean, and what nobody's saying they're going to change the program for better.
It seems like they're just gonna do
You
the
just need
same
a guy to do
thing.
the same thing.
Yeah,
So
so it might be just like a partnership that like went bad, internally, you
bad
know?
boyfriend, girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
A breakup happens
A
and now
break.
they're both blaming each other, and UFC's got a new girlfriend already.
Yeah.
And old girlfriend's kind of like, "Ooh, this guy sucks."
Because
So
like if you think about it, UFC is going to use the same you know, place that does a drug testing for other pro sports. So It's not like they found like a random like drug testing facility that no one knows about.
No, but I don't know. Who knows? And like if you were gonna like, pay someone off to do something or blah blah blah, you'll do it with whoever anyways.
Mm.
And who are we really concerned? We're only concerned with Conor McGregor. That's the only guy that this even matters, because everyone else seems okay. Like everyone else seems like they, do their thing and get caught or not get caught, and then away you go. So I don't know. Seems like kind of nonsensical, but it just seems like this has all blown up
Yeah.
a little crazily. In my opinion, I would say the UFC is kind of questionable here. I do think that something's a little bit funny, because when I read that USADA statement,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see
Kind of
anything
clicks for you.
I don't see anything that's crazy. Like I don't see why that sudden reaction, that sudden outburst. It's like it was just too much. Then they do this conference and with Nowitzki and Dana White and blah 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 and Hunter Campbell, and they're all there, and it's like a giant press conference, and they're like playing defense, but it's like, well, there wasn't like a lot of shots fired. Like I don't know, I just didn't see anything that I thought was too crazy. Like you saw it as saying like, hey, he's entered the pool, so we're letting you all know, which thanks, because like we didn't know that he wasn't in the pool or when he's in the pool, so great. And then they just go, but we don't know whether he's going to complete the 6 months because we're out of here on January 1st. All right, seems okay to me. Like I don't know, just very strange. So it's very weird, Raine. I guess we'll follow this through, and I guess we'll see. I mean, when we talk with UFC fighters, I'll call up my buddy Bam Bam Barberena and see if he has a new DFSI guy showing up at his house for his PP. Right? Like, yeah.
The different samples. Like,
yeah. Wait, there's only one sample they collect, though.
I don't know. I mean, what, just like do urine?
I think it's just urine, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think, maybe they do blood tests?
Do not collect blood, or?
Well, maybe. I don't think so, though. Everybody always, I mean, maybe it's just the joke, because they always go, they come and I got to pee in a cup.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
I don't know. Maybe they do blood. I should ask someone. But whatever. You can't mess that up either. Unless you go to the blood donation clinics that I go to in Toronto, where every time the lady pricks my arm badly.
Oh, God.
Like these ladies can never figure it out. I'll tell you, Raine, these nurses are the worst. But when I go to if I had to go to hospital and stuff like that, and then they take blood from me, don't even feel a thing. They just take the blood and gone, and it's like perfect. But every time I go to donate blood, it's like stabbing me like crazy. Like, I don't know. Raine, anything else we need to talk about? I know we're a little bit over, but
I just want to promote UNF 13 this Saturday, October 21st at Commerce Casino here in Los Angeles, California.
That time has flown by, Raine. That it's this Saturday already.
It's this Saturday. I'm excited.
Okay. It's going to be a 2-hour podcast, guys. Buckle up. Raine, how excited are you? That's crazy.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I tried on my new blazer that I'm going to wear for this Saturday.
Okay.
It's super sparkly.
Super sparkly. Nice.
Sparkly. And yeah, it was like 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I just told myself, you got to go to bed. It's okay. Saturday is like 5 days away. You're going to get there. You're going to be wearing this blazer and you're going to be announcing the fighters. It's going to be a great night. So
that's amazing. And do you know are you on the whole show? Do you know what the schedule is? Like, have they told you you're announcing?
Well, I know I'm announcing. I don't know yet like the order of like the fights, but for sure I will be there this Saturday. So I'm really excited. Okay.
All right. And so how do we watch that? We go to UNF.
Yeah. So find us on Instagram at Up Next Fighting. If you guys want to get tickets, go to upnextfighting.com. There's still tickets available.
Yeah.
And if you are there at Commerce Casino, please say hi to me. I'm the one with the glittery blazer. So
yeah,
announcing the fighters.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And so who knows, maybe by the time we talk to you next week, you'll have had a few successful fist bumps.
Fist bumps, yeah.
A few successful ones, like make contact with the fist, Raine.
Like,
do you need
don't
to go
leave me hanging, guys?
You know what you should do? You should do a video where you're out practicing your fist bumps. That would be a funny video if you make a video like that, like, practicing the fist bump while you're screaming it out. Yeah. Well, wait a second. See, I did it this way and you're doing it this way. Yeah, whatever. I would do it I don't know. Okay. Yeah.
Like you're holding it up?
Like I'm holding a mic. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Or a mic. Okay.
This way? Yeah, I don't actually see. Now that I think about it, it screws up my head. I don't like that though. You can't You can't do this, like cocking your wrist like that.
Yeah.
It's got to be
Yeah.
like, no,
Oh,
don't do it like
oh!
that. That's terrible. If you're watching, if you're only listening to this on audio, Rain's got it like she's holding a sock puppet. No, not like that. Like you got to go this way and then like,
This
extend
way
the
and that
elbow.
way. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's stronger,
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So UNF, very exciting. Rain, new outfit,
Yeah. I got a new
new
blazer.
new
Very
sparkly
sparkly.
blazer. Very
I'm
exciting.
excited.
Rain, that's crazy. That's gonna be awesome. And then obviously go to @ringside_rain on Instagram to follow you. And then you can follow because you'll put up stories and stuff
Yeah.
like that all the time. That's so cool. Rain, I'm very excited for you. I'm very happy to hear that. What else we got going on? I think that's it. Again, I don't know what's happening next week. Maybe you'll find someone cool at Up Next Fighting on that Saturday. And then, and then say, hey, do you want to come on the podcast Monday? By then I should know whether I'm dying for a guest or not. But because the one girl that I really want, I think this weekend is going to be too tough for her to do the Monday. I think she wants to do 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
So it's got to be, so that's why I need someone this week to fill in. But the 2 UK people have been a little bit awkward with their time. Yeah, maybe I'll get Joe Martinez back.
Maybe Joe.
Oh, I should message Joe maybe.
Yeah.
All right, Rain, congratulations. I can't wait for your success and work on the fist bump.
Yeah, not
The
this.
jacket. No,
not a
not
sock
that.
puppet.
That is
fist bump. No.
no, that is
I'm not
terrible.
doing that.
Terrible form. All right, guys, we will see you next week. Rain, thank you so much as always. This has been incredible. And Shannon Knapp, dream come
Thank
true
you,
to meet someone
Shannon.
like that. Yeah, thank you, Shannon. And we will see all of you guys next week. Thanks, Rain.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.